they make that choice.
But on the other hand, they don't have a voice in that pay scale prior to getting it signed on. Whereas the people who are already signed on have more of an effective voice in implementing the two-tier system. As I said, it's complicated, so we'll continue talking about it, I'm sure.
There is one thing that I see in here that I like very much. Maximum accrual of 360 hours of vacation. The purpose behind vacation is to get people time off, to break the stress, break the routine, and get them a chance to recharge their batteries and recoup. If they're not taking it, they're not getting it, we're not getting the benefit of that. I like that. I don't know who came up with that, but I think that's fantastic.
They had to come up with it in the case of Joanne, because she had like 790 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
We're not going on vacation.
Please don't take them all at once. It was when I was doing my old job and the director's job.
Oh,
And
I was
worked
kidding.
Every weekend and every day was 15-hour days
Joanne,
for
take a
6
break.
months. No
Take a break.
kidding. I did.
You deserve it.
You're absolutely right. Vacation is wonderful and it's necessary.
The German Army, by the way, has 5 weeks a year of vacation, and you have to take 3 weeks of it in a chunk every year, everybody. No excuses, no matter what's going on.
Any other questions on the vacation side? Just so you know, we didn't even deal with sick leave. Basically because of the fact that sick leave across the board is the same for represented, non-represented department heads, everything else. Their accrual rate for sick leave through the city is the same for everybody, so that one we didn't even throw in the hopper on this one. Severance pay.
Okay, on severance pay, pretty straightforward in terms of the amount that is offered here in this section based upon tenure with the city. 3, 4, 5, and 6 months, depending upon how long you've been with the city. That part's pretty straightforward. If the 3, the 4, the 5, and the 6 could be changed, could be reduced, could be made smaller. I think maybe part of the concern around this issue has to do with some of the narrative here and the language and the applicability of severance. My sense in talking with Jeanette, the stated notion here is that if a department head is asked to leave for no fault of their own, for example, a new mayor is elected and decides, I just want to have all new department heads for whatever reason. And it has nothing to do with the efficacy of the effort or the value of that individual in the organization. This severance is intended to be protective of that type of a situation. But if there's, if department head decides to leave because of, they want to move, or they've taken new employment, or there's gross negligence, and there's a whole list of things which I think pretty obviously would say, hey, this would not be deserving of severance pay. That whole issue, and then I know there's been some issues around severance pay in your recent memories. And those discussions were difficult, and how this applied or doesn't, or what should be done. And I know that sometimes, frankly, severance agreements in the case of departing employees, there's sort of a different context for that conversation than the specific policy that might be in front of you, and that's kind of a whole nother discussion or conversation that's unique to each circumstance and really wouldn't necessarily be governed by a policy. But as policies go, with the assumption that the separation is not due to one of those items listed at the bottom there, but it was purely a totally involuntary separation for no, sort of like no fault, like in a no fault insurance type of a situation. This is the severance that would automatically kick in. And if it was the council's pleasure, adjustments could be made to that schedule. Adjustments could be made to the reason for it. There's different models, different approaches that can be taken. Some communities don't offer it, some communities offer it, offer different amounts, different discretion is involved.
Hmm.
I know that you had a question.
I did.
Did I
I
answer
did.
that
Are
already?
you done? I don't want
I
to
am.
interrupt. I'm kind of waiting.
I am.
All right, all right. My first question was about evaluations. We've had some instances in the past where we've had separation and we haven't followed proper procedures as far as evaluations are concerned, and we had to offer severance when we really didn't feel like we should have had to offer severance.
I see.
And so I'm just really, you know, I would, what are the frequency of evaluations? Is that all covered in the employment
Yeah,
manual or?
On an annual basis.
Okay.
Employees are having evaluations.
Even at the city administrator level and department head level, they all,
Yeah.
there are supervisors that can,
Should have it, yes.
okay. Great,
Yeah.
And that's at a minimum, Jennifer,
Yeah.
annually at a minimum.
okay, right. Because I know that, you know, I'm sorry, you'll have to forgive me, I've never worked for the government before. So, you know, the severance is a bit overwhelming to me, the 3 months for 6 months worth of work. It just blows me away because that's very generous, in my opinion. And you know, if we can, I'm speaking on my own, I don't know, I'm not speaking for my other council members, but I would really like to see something less. Is it standard?
No, there is really no standard on this
Yeah.
particular issue. It's not uncommon for there to be a policy that points to severance in, particularly in strong mayor contexts.
Okay, well, let's take for instance, someone spends 1 to 5 months in their position. Does this not apply, or how does that work?
It would not apply, right? 6 months is the typical kind of probationary period, and so in employment law, when you're in a probationary period, your at-will is kind of capital at-will, and your removal is potential, you know, it's just not as much of an issue for an employer. And I think that concept was borrowed in setting a floor for tenure for severance. If a probationary period was 12 months, you know, maybe that would be the floor.
Interesting. It's a lot of flexibility.
Right. You know, and the basic philosophy behind severance, particularly, and I can speak at the chief appointed official level, city managers and city administrators. Those positions are at the will of an elected official or at an elected body. And so it's kind of like being a cabinet member at the federal level, in a sense. A top appointed official could be doing a great job, but someone else comes in and has nothing to do with you necessarily, but a change will be made. It's to provide some parachute or backstop for that, so that individuals, qualified and quality individuals, will be willing to be in that type of a situation and be willing to make a change from place to place. For department heads in a model such as Washougal's, where appointments